The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a cathedral made of light and stone. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, filled with beings from every corner of known space. Some had scales, others had feathers, and many had shapes that human eyes could barely understand. The air smelled of 100 different atmospheres. Filtered and mixed to keep everyone alive, Ambassador Linda Morrison stood at the central podium, her hands gripping the edges so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She was 57 years old, the gray streaking through her brown hair and lines on her face that told the story of decades, spent fighting battles with words instead of weapons. For 73 years, humanity had been members of the Galactic Council. For 73 years, they had followed every rule, respected every custom, and filed every complaint through proper channels. And for 73 years, the Council had treated them like children playing at the adult table. Hi, Arbiter Zelenthos sat on his elevated throne at the head of the chamber. He was a Varathan, a species that looked something like a spider crossed with a praying mantis. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he read from a glowing tablet. The matter before the Council today concerns the Proxima Centauri system, Zelenthos announced. His voice translated through 1,000 speakers. The Valanthi Dominion has presented historical records showing that their exploration vessels surveyed this system 300 years before human settlement. They claim rightful ownership under Section 447 of the Galactic Charter. Linda felt her stomach drop. Proxima Centauri was humanity's oldest colony. 4 million people lived there. Children had been born there, grown old there, died there. It was as human as Earth itself. The Council has reviewed the evidence, Zelenthos continued. The Valanthi claim is valid. Humanity will vacate the Proxima Centauri system within 30 standard rotations. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Linda heard laughter from somewhere to her left, where the Valanthi delegation sat. Ambassador Korath, a massive reptilian creature with golden scales, was already celebrating with his aides. Hi, Arbiter, Linda said. Struggling to keep her voice steady, I must formally protest this ruling. The Valanthi records are 3 centuries old and were only discovered last year. Our people have lived in Proxima Centauri for 60 years. Surely continuous habitation must count for something. Zelenthos waved one of his many limbs dismissively. The charter is clear, Ambassador. Discovery precedes settlement. The ruling stands. But the humanitarian implications alone should warrant reconsideration. We are talking about displacing 4 million people from their homes. Then you should have verified ownership before settling, Zelenthos replied. This session is concluded. Linda stood frozen at the podium. She thought about her daughter Catherine, who had moved to Proxima Centauri 8 years ago. Catherine had married a man named Gregory there. They had just had their first child, a boy named Peter. Linda had never even held her grandson because she had been too busy fighting in these chambers, and now they were being told to leave their home. Looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces. The Yelene delegation was chatting among themselves, clearly bored. The Kreth ambassador was reviewing documents for the next case, already having forgotten about the humans. The Valanthi were passing around drinks in celebration. Nobody cared. Nobody had ever cared. Linda thought about all the other cases humanity had lost. The time the Kreth sovereignty had destroyed 2 human transport ships and called it a navigation error. The Council had ordered them to pay a small fine. The time the Yelene Collective had stolen human medical research and patented it as their own. The Council had ruled that humans should have protected their data better. The time a human scientist had been murdered on a Valanthi space station. And the killer had been released because humans were not covered under Valanthi victim protection laws. Every single time. Humanity had accepted the ruling. They had filed appeals through proper channels. They had trusted the system. The system had never trusted them back. Something broke inside Linda Morrison at that moment. It was not a dramatic breaking, not a snap that anyone could hear. It was quiet, like a rope that had been fraying for years finally coming apart. No, she said. The murmurs in the chamber died instantly. Zelenthos's 4 eyes all focused on her. What did you say, Ambassador? I said no. Linda removed the diplomatic credentials from around her neck and placed them on the podium. I reject this ruling. Zalinthos made a sound that might have been a laugh. You cannot reject a council ruling. That is not how this works. You are correct, Linda said. An ambassador cannot reject a ruling. So I am no longer an ambassador. I am Linda Morrison, citizen of Earth, and I am telling you, on behalf of my species, that we are done. The chamber fell completely silent. Even Korath stopped celebrating. We came to you 73 years ago with open hands and hopeful hearts, Linda continued. We wanted to be part of something greater than ourselves. We believed in cooperation, in law, in justice. We believed that if we followed the rules and worked hard and proved ourselves worthy, we would be accepted as equals. She stepped away from the podium and began walking toward the exit. We were wrong. You never saw us as equals. You saw us as newcomers to be tolerated, as primitives to be managed, as a minor species to be used when convenient and discarded when not. Every law in your charter has been applied against us and never for us. Every ruling has favored the established powers over the new arrival. She stopped at the door and turned back to face the chamber one last time. We tried diplomacy. We tried patience. We tried playing by your rules. None of it mattered because your rules were never meant to include us. So we are done. We are leaving this council, and we are taking our future into our own hands. You cannot simply leave, Zalinthos said, and for the first time there was uncertainty in his voice. There will be consequences, sanctions, embargoes. Linda smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We will take our chances. She walked out of the chamber and never looked back. Within 2 hours, every human diplomat in the galaxy received the same encrypted message from Earth's united government. It contained only 2 words, "Come home." Within 2 days, human embassies on 47 worlds closed their doors. Human workers resigned from galactic corporations. Human ships altered course and headed for home space. Human scientists packed their research and left their positions at alien universities within 2 weeks. There was not a single human being living outside of human-controlled space. The Galactic Council watched this exodus with confusion and amusement. They had seen minor species throw tantrums before. The humans would calm down eventually. They would realize how much they needed the Council's trade networks and technology. They would come crawling back, apologize for their rudeness, and accept whatever crumbs they were offered. That was how it had always worked. Ambassador Korath of the Velanthe Dominion gave an interview to a Galactic News Network 3 days after the human withdrawal. He was asked what he thought would happen next. Nothing will happen, Korath said, his golden scales gleaming under the studio lights. The humans are an emotional species. They will calm down, they will return, and they will follow the rules like everyone else. What other choice do they have? They are weak. They have no military strength. They depend on galactic trade for half their economy. They cannot survive without us. He leaned back in his chair and laughed.
Trust me.
In 6 months, they will be begging for forgiveness, and we will make them pay dearly for this insult. Korath was wrong about many things, but he was most wrong about the 6 months. The humans would return, but they would not be begging. 3 months of silence had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council. 3 months without a single communication, a single trade ship, a single diplomatic message. The humans had simply vanished behind their borders and gone quiet. Counselor Viren of the Yelene Collective was the first to grow concerned. She was an older female of her species with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that had seen many political storms come and go. But she had never seen anything quite like this. Has anyone been able to contact the human government? She asked during a routine council session. We have outstanding trade contracts that need to be fulfilled. They owe us 3 shipments of agricultural products. No one had any answers. Every communication channel to human space had been met with automated responses or simple silence. Ships that approached human borders were turned away by patrol vessels that refused to engage in conversation. They are being childish, Ambassador Korath declared. They will run out of supplies soon enough. Their colonies depend on materials they cannot produce themselves. But the weeks kept passing, and the humans did not emerge. Galactic economists began to notice problems. Human products had been more common in galactic trade than anyone had realized. Human music, human art, human food, human technology adapted for alien use. All of it had simply stopped flowing. "It is nothing," Korath insisted when reporters asked. "We will adapt." The humans were never that important. On Earth, the reality was very different from what the galaxy imagined. General Daniel Hayes stood in the command center of the newly constructed United Human Military Headquarters, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He was 61 years old. With a shaved head and eyes that had seen combat on 3 different worlds during the border conflicts of his youth around him, hundreds of officers worked at holographic displays showing every human-controlled system in real time. The room hummed with quiet energy, the sound of a species preparing for something it had never done before. "Status report," Daniel said to his second-in-command. Colonel Maria Santos. Maria was 43. With short black hair and a calm demeanor that hid a brilliant tactical mind, she pulled up a display showing shipyard activity across human space. "Production is exceeding all projections," she said. "When we started Project Prometheus 8 months ago, we estimated we could build 2,000 warships in 18 months. We now have 4,000 completed, with another 2,000 under construction. We should have 6,000 combat-ready vessels within 5 months." Daniel nodded slowly. "And the weapons systems?" "The pulse cannons are performing beyond specifications. The shield technology is solid, but the real breakthrough is the electronic warfare suite." Maria smiled slightly. "Our scientists took apart every piece of alien technology we had access to during our council membership. We found weaknesses in their systems that they do not even know exist. We can disable an enemy ship's entire computer network from 50,000 kilometers away. Cloaking? Functional on all ship classes. We can hide an entire fleet in plain sight." Daniel walked to the main display, which showed a map of human space and the surrounding galactic territory. For 73 years, humans had been told they were weak. They had been told they were primitive. They had been told they needed the protection and guidance of older, wiser species. They had believed it. That was the worst part. They had actually believed they were lesser. But humans had a long memory for injury, and they had a talent that the galaxy had completely overlooked. When humans truly committed to a goal, when they stopped arguing among themselves and focused on a common enemy, they became something terrifying. The nations of Earth had always been divided. Wars, politics, economics, religion. 1,000 different conflicts stretching back thousands of years. But the Galactic Council had accomplished something that no human leader had ever managed. They had given humanity a common enemy. They had given every human being, regardless of nation or culture or belief, a reason to stand together, and humans standing together were capable of things the galaxy could not imagine. "What about civilian support?" Daniel asked. Maria pulled up another display. "We asked for volunteers to work in the shipyards and factories. We needed 2 million. We received 11 million applications. We asked for military recruits. We needed 500,000. We received 3 million. Every human being who can contribute wants to contribute. I have never seen anything like it." Daniel thought about his own family. His son Kevin had enlisted the day after Linda Morrison's famous walkout. His daughter Nicole was working 16-hour shifts at a weapons manufacturing facility. His wife Patricia had come out of retirement to help train new officers. Every family on Earth had a similar story. The insult to Proxima Centauri had not just angered a government, it had angered a species. "The galaxy thinks we are hiding because we are afraid," Daniel said quietly. "They think we are in here crying and falling apart." "Let them think that," Maria replied. "Surprise is a weapon too." Meanwhile, on Proxima Centauri, Governor Samuel Wright was managing a very different kind of preparation. He was 72 years old, white-haired and thin, a quit, with the weathered face of a man who had spent decades building something from nothing. His colony had been given 30 days to evacuate. Those 30 days had passed 2 months ago. The Valanthe had sent angry messages. They had threatened consequences. But no Volanthi ship had actually appeared to enforce the order. Samuel suspected they were waiting for the humans to crack on their own. They expected riots, collapse, desperation. They expected the colonists to beg for permission to stay. Instead, the colonists had started digging. "How are the shelter systems coming?" Samuel asked his aide, a young woman named Rachel Torres. "Completed ahead of schedule," Rachel replied. "We can fit the entire population underground for 6 months if needed. Food production, water recycling, power generation, all self-sufficient." Samuel looked out his office window at the city below. New Helsinki had grown from a small research outpost to a thriving metropolis of 4 million people. Every building, every street, every park had been built by human hands. His grandson, Peter, had been born here 3 weeks ago. Samuel had held the tiny baby in his arms and made a silent promise. This child would grow up free. This child would know a universe where humans were not second-class citizens. "Whatever it took, they think we will surrender," Samuel said. "They think we will pack up our lives and leave because some aliens told us to. Will we?" Rachel asked. Samuel turned to face her. "My grandmother crossed an ocean with nothing but the clothes on her back because she believed in a better life. My father built this colony from bare rock and toxic air because he believed humans deserved a place among the stars. I watched my friends die from radiation exposure in the early years because we did not have proper shielding. We suffered and sacrificed and bled for this world." He shook his head slowly. "No, we will not surrender. We will not leave. If they want Proxima Centauri, they will have to take it from us, and they will find that humans do not give up what is theirs." Back on Earth, deep in the command center, General Daniel Hayes received a message from Admiral Linda Morrison. She had traded her diplomatic robes for a naval uniform and was now commanding the First Fleet from the carrier vessel Defiance. The message was brief. "All units report ready. Awaiting your order." Daniel looked at the map one more time. The galaxy had given humanity no choice. They had tried peace. They had tried cooperation. They had been rejected every single time. Now they would try something else. He typed his response with steady and maintain position. "Continue training. When the time comes, we will move as one." They wanted to see what humans are capable of. "We are going to show them." The message went out to every ship, every base, every soldier in human space, and in the darkness between the stars. 6,000 warships waited in silence for the order that would change the galaxy forever. Commander Zelthan of the Valentha warship Triumphant considered himself a patient officer. He had waited 6 months for the humans to surrender their colony at Proxima Centauri. He had expected them to come to their senses, pack their belongings, and leave quietly. They had not. Now his patience had run out. The Triumphant was one of the finest vessels in the Volanthi fleet. 2 kilometers long, armed with plasma cannons that could glass a continent crewed by 800 trained warriors, it had been sent to Proxima Centauri with a simple mission: remind the humans who was in charge. "Scan the system," Zelthan ordered from his command throne. "Tell me what defenses they have." His sensor officer worked the controls for several moments before responding. "Commander, I am detecting the colony on the 4th planet. 4 million life signs, as expected. There are several orbital stations, cargo vessels, and mining ships. No military vessels of any kind?" Zelthan clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. This would be easy. The humans had no way to fight back. They would bluster and threaten, and then they would do what they were told. "Open a channel to the colony," he commanded. The communication screen flickered to life, showing an elderly human male with white hair. His expression was calm, almost bored. "This is Governor Samuel Wright of New Helsinki. What do you want?" Zelthan leaned forward. "Human, you have violated a direct order from the Galactic Council. You were instructed to evacuate this system 6 months ago. You have not done so. I am here to enforce that order." Samuel nodded slowly. "I see. And how exactly do you plan to enforce it?" "You have 1 standard rotation to begin evacuation procedures. If you do not comply, I will begin bombardment of non-essential infrastructure. Your factories, your power plants, your transportation networks. I will continue destroying targets until you agree to leave. Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled slightly, which confused Zelthon. Humans usually showed fear when threatened with orbital bombardment. Commander Zelthon, Samuel said, I need to inform you that you are trespassing in sovereign human territory. You have 60 seconds to reverse course and leave this system. This is your only warning. Zelthon actually laughed. It was a harsh clicking sound that echoed through his bridge. Several of his officers joined in. You threaten me? With what? I have scanned your entire system. You have no warships. You have no weapons platforms. You have nothing but cargo vessels and mining equipment. What exactly do you think you can do to stop me? 50 seconds, Samuel replied calmly. Human, I have destroyed species more advanced than yours. I have burned worlds that had actual defenses. You are nothing. You are insects pretending to be warriors. When I am finished here, there will not be a single human structure left standing on that planet. 30 seconds. Zelthon cut the channel in disgust. Target their primary communications satellite. Let them watch as we destroy their ability to call for help that will never come. The weapons officer locked onto the target and pressed the firing control. Nothing happened. Report. Zelthon Demon. DED. The weapons officer's scales had gone pale. Commander, the weapons are not responding. I am getting error messages across all targeting systems. Navigation is offline, another officer called out. I cannot access helm control. Life support is fluctuating, a third voice added. Engineering reports multiple system failures throughout the ship. The lights on the bridge flickered and died. Emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in a dim red glow. Zelthon could hear alarms sounding from every section of his vessel. What is happening? He roared. We are under attack. Find the enemy. Commander, sensors are down. I cannot see anything. A new voice came over the ship's speakers. It was calm, professional, and completely human. Commander Zelthon, this is Captain Henry Cole of the United Human Navy vessel Reckoning. You were given a warning. You chose to ignore it. Your ship has been disabled by our electronic warfare systems. Zelthon stared at the dead screens around him, trying to understand what was happening. You're now surrounded by 17 human warships, Captain Cole continued. You never detected us because we did not want you to detect us. Your weapons, engines, and communications are offline. Your vessel will be towed to a holding facility where your crew will be detained. This is impossible, Zelthon whispered. Humans do not have warships. Humans do not have this technology. We did not have this technology 6 months ago, Captain Cole replied. We have it now. Surrender your vessel peacefully, and your crew will be treated well. Resist, and you will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. This is not diplomacy. This is a statement of fact. The channel closed. Zelthon stumbled to the viewport at the side of his bridge. At first, he saw nothing but stars. Then, one by one, shapes began to appear in the darkness. Human warships decloaked around the Triumphant like ghosts becoming solid. They were sleek and angular, painted in dark colors that made them nearly invisible against the void. Each one bristled with weapons that Zelthon had never seen before. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding his helpless vessel from every direction. 17 ships. He had been told humans had no military. He had been told they were primitives who could barely travel between stars. Yet here they were, with vessels that had hidden from his sensors and disabled his ship without firing a single shot. Commander, his first officer said quietly, "What do we do?" Zelthon had no answer. For the first time in his military career, he was completely helpless. His ship was dead. His weapons were useless. His crew was trapped. He thought about fighting anyway. He thought about ordering his warriors to resist when the humans boarded. But that would only result in unnecessary deaths, and Zelthon was not a fool. He knew when he was beaten. Stand down, he ordered. Do not resist. We will cooperate with their demands. The bridge crew looked at him with shock. A Valanthy commander, surrendering without a fight. It was almost unthinkable, but Zelthon was already thinking beyond this moment. He was thinking about the report he would have to make to his superiors. He was thinking about what this meant for the Velanthi Dominion, for the Galactic Council, the entire balance of power in known space. The humans had been quiet for 6 months. Everyone had assumed they were hiding in fear, licking their wounds, accepting their place at the bottom of the galactic order. They had been building, they had been preparing, and now they had revealed capabilities that should have taken centuries to develop. Cloaking technology, electronic warfare systems that could disable a capital ship in seconds, warships that moved with precision and coordination, that spoke of extensive training and planning. How? How had they done this? Where had they found the resources, the knowledge, the will to transform themselves so completely in such a short time? Zelfin did not know. But he knew that the galaxy would have to find out, and quickly. Because if humans could do this in 6 months, what would they be capable of in a year? In 10 years? In a century? As human marines boarded his ship and escorted him and his crew to detention cells, Zelfin could not shake one thought from his mind. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They had pushed a young species into a corner, assuming it would accept its fate quietly. Instead, they had awakened something dangerous. Humans did not accept their fate. Humans changed it, and now the galaxy would have to deal with the consequences. On the bridge of the reckoning, Captain Henry Cole watched as the Triumphant was secured and towing cables were attached. The first real test of human military power had been a complete success. Not a single shot fired, not a single casualty on either side. "Send a message to command," he ordered. "Operation First Light is complete. The Velanthi vessel has been captured. Awaiting further orders." His communications officer, Lieutenant Emma Davis, nodded and transmitted the message. A response came back within minutes, directly from General Daniel Hayes. It read, "Well done. Hold position. The Council will learn of this soon. Prepare for their response." This is only the beginning. Henry looked out at the stars and allowed himself a small smile. For decades, humanity had been told they were weak. For decades. They had believed it. Not anymore. News of the Triumphant's capture spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within hours, every major news network was broadcasting the story. Within days, the Galactic Council had convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber was more crowded than it had been in decades. Every species with a seat on the Council had sent their highest-ranking representatives. The observation galleries were packed with journalists, diplomats, and curious citizens who had traveled across the stars to witness what many were calling the most significant political event in centuries. High Arbiter Zelinthos sat on his elevated throne, his 4 eyes moving constantly across the agitated crowd. He had been leading the Council for 40 years. He had guided it through wars, economic crises, and political upheavals. But he had never seen the established order threatened quite like this. "Order," he commanded, and the chamber slowly fell silent. "This session has been called to address the situation in the Proxima Centauri system. Ambassador Korath, you may present your government's position." Korath rose from his seat. His golden scales were dull with stress, and his movements lacked their usual confidence. The capture of the Triumphant had been a personal humiliation. He had promised that humans would surrender quickly. He had been spectacularly wrong. "This is an act of war," Korath declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. "The humans attacked a Velanthi vessel without provocation. They disabled it using unknown weapons. They captured its crew. They have violated every principle of galactic law." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Zelinthos raised a limb for silence. "The humans claimed they were acting in self-defense," he said. "Their position is that the Triumphant entered their territory without permission and threatened a civilian population."
Ow.
Korath spat. "The Council ruled that Proxima Centauri belongs to the Velanthi Dominion. The humans have no legal claim to that system. Be that as it may, they clearly have a military claim. The question before us is how to respond." Before Korath could reply, the chamber doors burst open. Linda Morrison walked in. But she was almost unrecognizable from the woman who had left this chamber 8 months ago. Gone were the diplomatic robes and the careful, measured posture. She wore the black and silver uniform of the United Human Navy, with admiral's insignia on her collar and a row of medals on her chest. Her graster ached hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes held an intensity that made several nearby delegates step back. She was not alone. Behind her walked a human officers in combat armor, carrying sidearms openly. They moved with the easy confidence of trained soldiers who feared nothing in this chamber. "The human delegation requests the floor," Linda announced. "You have no delegation," Zelenthos replied. "You abandon your position with this council? You have no right to speak here. Then I am not asking." Linda walked past the protesting delegates and took position at the central podium. "I am informing you of decisions that have already been made," Guards Korth shouted. "Remove this woman immediately." Council security officers moved toward Linda, but her two escorts stepped forward. The movement was small, almost casual, but suddenly every alien in the immediate area became very aware of the weapons they carried. "I would not recommend that," Linda said calmly. "We are here to talk, not to fight. But if you force a confrontation, you will not enjoy the outcome." Zelenthos raised a limb. "Stand down. Let her speak." He leaned forward. "Admiral Morrison, you understand that anything you say here cannot change the legal situation. The Council's ruling on Proxima Centauri stands." "No," Linda replied. "It does not." She activated a control on the podium, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with human-controlled space highlighted in blue. "For 73 years, we tried to be your equals. We followed your laws, respected your treaties, and accepted your judgments even when they were obviously unfair. We believed that civilization required compromise and cooperation. We were wrong." She pressed another control, and the blue territory on the map expanded dramatically. It now encompassed dozens of systems that had previously belonged to other species. As of this moment, the United Human Government claims sovereignty over all systems within 50 light-years of Earth and our established colonies. This includes Proxima Centauri, which was always ours and will remain ours. It includes the Valenthi mining operations in the Tau Ceti system, which will be shut down. It includes the Yelene research stations in the Epsilon Eridani system, which will be evacuated. The chamber exploded with protests. Delegates screamed in dozens of languages. Several species made threatening gestures. Ambassador Korth looked like he might actually attack Linda physically. "He cannot simply claim territory that belongs to others," Councillor Viren of the Yelene shouted over the chaos. "Why not?" Linda asked, her voice cutting through the noise. "You did. All of you did. When your species were young and aggressive, you took what you wanted by force. You conquered your neighbors, seized their resources, and built empires on their graves. Then you created this council to protect what you had stolen, and to prevent anyone new from doing the same thing." She let that sink in for a moment. The rules of this council were never meant to be fair. They were meant to preserve the power of established species and keep newcomers like us in our place. You welcomed humanity because you thought we would be useful servants, cheap labor, convenient trading partners, a source of resources to be exploited. Linda stepped away from the podium and addressed the entire chamber directly. "We are not servants. We are not resources. We are humans. And we are done accepting anything less than what we deserve." Ambassador Korth finally found his voice. "You think you can threaten the entire galaxy? The Valenthi Dominion alone has 10,000 warships. We will crush your pathetic species and scatter your ashes across the void." Linda turned to face him directly. "Ambassador, in the last 8 months, humanity has constructed a fleet of over 6,000 warships. We have developed weapons your scientists cannot understand. We have deployed defense systems that make our worlds impenetrable." She paused, making sure every being in the chamber was listening. "Your entire dominion could throw every ship you have at us, and you would be destroyed before you crossed our borders. We are not guessing about this. We have run the simulations. We know exactly what we can do, and we know exactly what you cannot do." The chamber fell silent. Even Korth had nothing to say. "But we are not savages," Linda continued. "We do not want war. We do not want to conquer your worlds or enslave your people. We want to be left alone to live in peace on worlds that belong to us. She addressed Zalinthos directly. High Arbiter, every species in this chamber has a choice. Accept our territorial claims, withdraw your forces from our space, and we can coexist peacefully. Reject our claims and face the consequences. There is no third option. There is no negotiation. There is no appeal. Zalinthos was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. And if the council rules against you, the council's rulings mean nothing to us anymore. We gave you 73 years to treat us fairly. You chose not to. Now we will treat ourselves fairly, and you will accept it because you have no other option. Linda began walking toward the exit. At the door, she stopped and turned back one final time. One more thing. Governor Samuel Wright's grandson was born 3 months ago on New Helsinki. His name is Peter Morrison Wright. He is my great-nephew. That child will grow up free, on a human world, under human protection. He will never have to beg anyone for permission to exist. He will never have to accept being treated as less than equal. Her eyes swept across the chamber, meeting the gaze of every delegate she passed. No council ruling will ever change that. No fleet will ever be large enough to take it from us. Whatever you decide today, remember this. Humanity is not asking for your approval anymore. We are informing you of the way. Things are going to be. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. The council sat in stunned silence for a very long time. 5 years had passed since Admiral Linda Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chamber for the last time. 5 years of change, conflict, in transformation that had reshaped the political landscape of known space. The Velanthe Dominion had tested human resolve exactly once. 6 months after Linda's ultimatum, Ambassador Korath had convinced his government to launch a massive assault on the Tau Ceti system. 300 warships, the largest fleet the Dominion had assembled in 2 centuries, jumped into human space with weapons charged and crews ready for battle. The engagement lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, 263 Velanthe ships had been destroyed. The rest had surrendered or fled. Human losses totaled 11 vessels damaged, none destroyed. The technological gap between human weapons and Velahanthe defenses was simply too vast to overcome with numbers alone. After that, no one tested humanity again. Admiral Linda Morrison stood on the observation deck of Starbase Unity, watching the constant traffic of ships passing through the massive station. Freighters, passenger liners, military escorts, diplomatic vessels. Some were human, many were not. Much had changed in 5 years. Humanity was no longer a member of the Galactic Council and had no interest in rejoining. Instead, Earth had created something new, the Free Worlds Alliance. It had started with 3 species. The Corvani, a gentle race of traders who had been exploited by the Council for centuries. The Meshenti, brilliant scientists who had seen their inventions stolen and their people marginalized. And the Thalari, warriors whose homeworld had been conquered by the Velanthe 200 years ago. They had come to humanity seeking protection. They had found something better, partnership. Now the alliance included 27 species from across the galaxy. Some were refugees from Council oppression. Others were small civilizations that had never had a voice in galactic affairs. All of them had found a home under the protection of human fleets and the principles of genuine equality. The door behind Linda opened. The young officer walked in. He wore the uniform of the Alliance Fleet Academy, crisp and new. His face was familiar in a way that made Linda's heart ache with memories and pride. "Admiral Morrison," he said, saluting crisply. "I was told you wanted to see me." Linda smiled and returned the salute. "At ease, Cadet, right? And you can call me Aunt Linda when we are in private." Peter Morrison Wright relaxed slightly. He was 5 years old in calendar terms, but the accelerated education programs of the new human society had made him mature beyond those years. He had his mother Catherine's dark hair and his grandfather Samuel's determined chin. The dean said you had a special assignment for me, Peter said. Linda gestured toward the viewport. Do you see that ship out there? The large diplomatic cruiser with the blue markings? Peter looked. The vessel was elegant and graceful, clearly designed for comfort rather than combat. Alliance and Yelene flags flew from its virtual beacon. Is that a Yelene ship? It is. Counselor Viren is aboard. She has come to request formal admission to the Free Worlds Alliance. Peter's eyes widened. The Yelene had been among the worst offenders during humanity's council years. They had stolen human research, blocked human trade agreements, and voted against human interests at every opportunity. I thought the Yelene hated us, he said. They did? They also feared us, which is worse. But fear fades when it is not fed, and hatred loses its purpose when circumstances change. Linda turned to face her great-nephew. The Yelene have watched the Alliance grow for 5 years. They have seen species flourish under our protection. They have watched their own position in the Council weaken as more and more civilizations choose to join us instead. So now they want to be our friends? Linda laughed softly. They want to survive. They want to prosper. They see which way the galaxy is moving, and they want to be on the winning side. Whether that becomes genuine friendship will depend on how both sides behave in the years ahead. She placed a hand on Peter's shoulder. I want you to be part of the delegation that greets them. I want you to see diplomacy in action, real diplomacy based on mutual respect rather than submission. Peter frowned. Why me? I am just a cadet. Because you represent the future, Peter. You were born on Proxima Centauri, the world they tried to take from us. You grew up in a universe where humanity stands tall rather than bowing. When Counselor Viren looks at you, she will see what we have become. She will see that we are not the desperate, inferior species the Council tried to make us. Linda turned back to the viewport. A human frigate was escorting the Yelene diplomatic cruiser to its docking berth. The two vessels moved in perfect coordination, a dance of power and grace that would have been unimaginable a decade ago. Your grandfather Samuel used to tell me that strength without wisdom is just violence. We have proven our strength. Now we must prove our wisdom. We must show the galaxy that we are not like the Council, that we do not use our power to exploit and dominate. Is that why you are being nice to the Yelene? Peter asked. To show that we are different, partly. But also because it is the right thing to do. The Yelene made mistakes, but so did we. They followed a system that rewarded selfishness and punished cooperation. We cannot blame individuals for swimming in the water they were given. She smiled at her great-nephew. Does that make sense? Peter thought about it carefully. I think so. We fought because we had to, but we do not have to keep fighting forever. The goal was never to hurt people. The goal was to be free. Exactly. Linda felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. This boy understood. The next generation understood. The sacrifices of the past 5 years had not been in vain. Go get ready, she said. Put on your dress uniform. The delegation arrives in 2 hours. I want you standing next to me when we greet them. Peter saluted again and hurried out of the observation deck. Linda remained at the viewport watching the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were living their lives on dozens of worlds. They were building cities, raising families, exploring the unknown, creating art, making discoveries. They were doing all the things that sentient beings do when they are free. To choose their own destiny, humanity had earned this future. They had earned it through struggle and sacrifice, through patience and preparation. Through the simple refusal to accept anything less than their due, the galaxy had underestimated them. The Council had dismissed them as primitives, as children, as a minor species that would never amount to anything. They had been wrong about everything. Linda thought about her younger self. The idealistic diplomat who had believed that following the rules would eventually lead to acceptance. That woman felt like a stranger now. She had been naive, trusting a system that had never been designed to include her people, but she did not regret those years. The lessons she had learned in the council chambers had made her a better leader. She understood how power worked, how species thought, how to read the subtle currents of galactic politics. That knowledge had served humanity well during the transformation years And now, finally, they could begin building something better. Not an empire built on conquest and fear, but an alliance built on mutual benefit and respect. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks and conflicts and difficult decisions. But humanity had proven that it could handle difficult things. The observation deck door opened again. A young communications officer entered and saluted. The Yelene delegation is requesting permission to begin docking procedures. Linda straightened her uniform and composed her expression into something welcoming but dignified. Permission granted. Inform them that the Alliance looks forward to discussing their application. And tell them that the Admiral herself will greet them at the airlock. The officer hurried away. Linda took one last look at the stars. Her daughter Catherine was out there somewhere, commanding a research vessel on the frontier. Her grandson Peter was about to witness his first diplomatic ceremony. Her species was thriving in ways she had never dared to dream. The silence was over. The waiting was done. The future stretched out before humanity like an endless ocean of possibility. They had fought for this moment. They had sacrificed for it. They had earned it. And now finally, they could enjoy it. Admiral Linda Morrison, former diplomat, former outcast, now one of the most powerful humans in the galaxy, walked toward the airlock to welcome the first of many former enemies into the arms of a new alliance. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it, and this was only the beginning.